My name is Saran Krishnaraja, and for my GUR assignment number 4, I'm going to be talking about remote playtesting versus traditional playtesting, and their differences, their benefits, and whatnot. So what is playtesting? Playtesting is one of the most important parts of game design, but also can be one of the hardest. Playtesting is an iterative game design process used by game developers to test the game. It is also the process of testing a game for bugs and design flaws before bringing it to market, but there are very different ways you can approach it. The two ways we're going to be discussing is the traditional in-person method and the remote playtesting method. The traditional in-person playtesting is where you bring in your market consumers and observe them while they play the game. This usually entails a very formal observation of the testers while they play the game over periods of time, usually a couple hours, but it can take up to a couple of days or even weeks. The process usually goes by first screening out participants for your study, asking them to do a pre-questionnaire to see their gaming experience and if they're the right fit for your study. Afterwards, you make a little meet and greet. You ask them to play your game, you observe them, and you have a post-questionnaire and an interview afterwards. These steps go more in depth, but for now we won't go through them. So some of the benefits of traditional playtesting is that you get really individual feedback. Individual feedback means you get very specific data of what they did based on what you observed during the playtest. You can really get a more in-depth view of what the player is going through. Also, during your post-interview questions, you can really change up what you want to ask, right? So say if a player jumped in one level, but you didn't really design it for that way, you can just ask them, be like, okay, why did you jump this way? Really tailor your questions to what you're looking for from your observations during the playtest. And this gives you some really specific data and really help you out when you're looking for some specific details during your playtest. And also, it's going to be tailored for individuals, right? It doesn't. So one person does something in this playtest, another person does something in another playtest. You can see and compare why they did it, right? So some of the challenges for traditional playtesting is it takes a lot of resources and manpower. So by resources, you can say manpower, space, the staff too. So when you're observing them, the setup, right, the TV controller, whatnot you need for the room. Maybe you need a plant or some open space for some windows to make them comfortable. Also, it needs to be isolated, so you can't just have multiple play testers in one room, right? It would skew your study. Also, you need to find people that fit your criteria and make sure their availability lines up with yours, right? So say you have a room booking from say 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. and there you can't make it there, right? Or they do tell you, okay, I can make it there, but then something comes up, like a doctor's appointment, something, then you wasted the schedule for that room time, right? This also issues need to be taken in when you're doing traditional playtesting. Remote playtesting is where you send a copy of your game and get feedback through questionnaires. It's done over the internet, so there's no cost to you for renting a room, booking time, or having the man hours for the employees to observe them and whatnot, and the free pizzas, right? Usually you just send the electronic copy of the game over to the player. They play the game, well, they first do questionnaires, and then they play the game, and while they're playing it, they speak out loud, and the gameplay is recorded, so you record the voice and the gameplay, and then afterwards you're done, you do a quick survey at the end, and that's it. As you can see, this is a very different type of way of doing playtesting than the traditional in-person, observing the person and having a little checklist kind of thing. It's usually done for mobile games mostly, since they're very accessible for anyone that has a mobile phone. So some of the benefits of remote playtesting is how easy it is to set up, and also you can have a very large and diverse pool base of testers. It's really easy to start a remote playtest. So that's all online. Especially if you have a social media presence and you just send out a tweet saying, hey, here's a link to our game. We need some playtesters to try it out. Give me your feedback. You can get a lot of feedback and a lot of data just from doing that. There's also third-party companies that help with that. Some like Playtest Cloud that offer game companies the service of recording playtesters and getting the data from the playtest. So they're just like a go in between. So if you really don't have a social media presence, they'll help you get those players and the data, and they just goes through all through them. The challenges of remote playtesting is that the questionnaires have to be well thought out and be broad and general in nature. Another challenge is that it can't be personalized. For example, if one player jumps and another one doesn't, you can't ask why they did that or why they did it, right? Unless you previously knew if they're a jump or not and put that in your questionnaire. But for those reasons, it's not worth it. Another issue is that you can have a bit too much data. If you have tens of thousands of players playing and you have too much analytics, it can be very overwhelming. So that goes back into your questionnaires and have to be well thought out. Another one is, since you are shipping your game to them electronically, you'll have them sign an NDA, but still there will be leaks and whatnot. And trying to enforce an NDA on 10,000 people is not very reasonable. Even screen recording the game can sometimes lead to issues. In my personal experience, I was actually a playtester for Playtest Cloud, and they do send you an NDA and they tell you not to screen record your mobile phone. But trying to enforce that, or even having someone beside you, you're not allowed to have that, but it's not very enforceable. It's just trying to keep their legal tracks. I'll talk you through how we went through the process for Playtest Cloud. So at first, they'll tell you to fill out your information on your profile. So how many hours you play games, what type of games you play. Then you'll get an email saying, hey, you've qualified for this playtest, that playtest. Afterwards, you fill out a short survey, and then they send the game to you on an email link. You download the game on your phone. Afterwards, they ask you to make sure your microphone is set up. Then you just play the game, talk about what you're doing, and then afterwards you just fill out a short survey, and that's it. You usually play from 10 to 15 minutes, and sometimes even 30 minutes, depending on what the game requires. And that was my personal experience with the challenges of remote playtesting. It was good and bad, but it was okay for the experience-wise goes. So which is better? It really depends. So when comparing the two methods, one focused on a small, specific pool base and individual feedback, and another focused on a large, diverse pool base and general group feedback. Each of it has its strengths and weaknesses, but they not should be used for every game, right? I think mobile games do remote playtesting really well because you can see from Playtest Cloud how they changed from mobile and PC to just mobile playtesting. They did this because remote play testing is the best for mobile games. Since they're casual, the player base for mobile games is huge, from kids to adults to even seniors. And all genders have mobile phones, right? Everyone plays a little game like Bejeweled or whatnot, right? Just to pass time, kill time. But for PC gamers, you have a PC game and you need like a Titan X80 whatnot, right? For your high spec PC to run this game, but people usually just have like a 2006 Dell or something like that, and not everyone can hit this market, right? Same thing for mobiles, right? But with the technology that's in smartphones and how well optimized mobile games are, you can run any pretty well on a mobile phone of a generic game, right? Both methods are good, but it really depends on the needs of the company and the game that they're testing, right? And what they're testing, what stages are they testing at, and what are they really going for and trying to find from these play tests, right? In conclusion, playtesting is a very important part of the game design process and should be started as early as possible. Even if you have some cubes moving around the screen, you should still playtest it. Choosing which method of playtesting should be decided on depending on what criteria you're looking for in a game. How much is your budget? Do you need a lot of participants? How much data are you looking for? What kind of data are you looking for? Do you need a more personalized study? These are some of the questions you should be asking before you decide what method you're kind of looking for. Are there any questions? Thank you. And that's it for my slides. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.